Is Coach Kamogawa going to die before Hajime no Ippo ends? Hola, Ippo fanatics. I believe it is finally time to really dive into the theory of whether or not Coach Kamogawa is going to die in the foreseeable future. Now, there is a lot of speculation, a lot of fact, and everything in between. There's not much in between, but there's some things in between. So let's start with the facts, work our way to the fiction, and really dive into whether or not I think that Kamogawa is going to die. So what we know for fact is Coach Kamogawa was born in 1917 in Japan. So this is pre-World War II. We also know that he was a fighter during World War II and a prize fighter and a hard laborer after the war was over until he opened up the gym himself. So one interesting thing to think about with that is he lived a very tough physical life from the time that I believe he was 0 until he opened the gym. We don't have an exact date on that, or at least I don't have it in front of me, but we know that this is going to lead to, your joints and your body just kind of wearing down. And that puts Kamogawa at between the ages of 82 and 83 in the current timeline. As best we can guesstimate, it is January or February 2000 in the current Hajime no Ippo story. So this is an 83-year-old man who has been living a very hard physical life, going through some very traumatic experiences. Getting punched in the face, in the guts with bare knuckles is not necessarily going to leave your body feeling too good overall. So the very first time that this theory of Kamogawa being sick really reared its head was in chapter 208 in the Road Back arc. He collapsed while he was holding mitts for Ippo, and they actually did this really well. He was in the hospital, he was overworked, but he was still giving advice to Ippo from beyond the grave, even though he wasn't really dead. Now, they attributed this to fatigue and overwork, which I can safely say is very possible. We've seen this happen in other manga before, like Bakuman, when the main artist kid, I can't remember his name, actually ended up in the hospital because he was working himself to death. Now, Kamogawa has been holding the mitts for multiple boxers, along with holding them for the basically god amongst men Takamura and the little tank himself, Ippo. So this puts, again, more added strain onto the body. This doesn't necessarily mean illness, it is just more strain. Now, chapter 208 was, I believe, 5 to 6 years before the current timeline events. I could be very wrong. So we started to see this kind of appear when he was in his mid to late 70s. Now, the next time that we got to see this, and I will absolutely thank Just Passing By 12112 from Reddit, who really brought this together, and I was able to look through, find photographs, and if I wasn't, I didn't include them. But the first time that I could find another photograph of the coach being mentioned that he was in the hospital or being ill was chapter 1173, when he was coughing up blood after Ippo's match was announced. Now, if you take a look at his hand, there's blood trickling down his arm. Now, that is very weird, because that could be a bunch of different diseases. That could either be an ulcer in the stomach, that could be leukemia. There's a bunch of different blood-related things that make you cough up blood. He could just be a vampire and accidentally spitting up what he's eaten. I doubt that. But one very interesting thing that we note here, and that I really would like to note, is the conversation between Yagi and the coach. Now, I do believe that Yagi is far closer to the coach than any of the other people in that gym. He understands how the coach thinks, he understands why the coach does certain things, and he's also got a little bit of a vicious streak, just like the coach. But Yagi says, I'm worried that you are being super stressed out, and the coach says, are you thinking that they are going to shorten my lifespan? Now, this is a very weird thing to take into context. Why would catching these punches shorten his lifespan if there wasn't something else going on? Now, that's conjecture. We can't go purely based off of conjecture. And Yagi kind of replies with, I'm not worried about shortening your lifespan. And it's not the fact that you're not skilled, it's your stamina. So this leads us to really dive into this illness, this sickness that is kind of underlying the surface. So we know that at a certain point, Kamogawa had this, was hospitalized for fatigue. His stamina might not be completely there at this moment in time, or at least in 1173. Now, we jump forward about 41 chapters to 1214 after Ippo has retired. Shinoda, I can never say the names properly, comes to Ippo's house in the middle of the night and says, Ippo, we need you to come back to the ring, not as a boxer, but as a second, because the coach has been hospitalized due to a cold. And to me, that's a little suspect. That's within the span of 6 years. 2 hospitalizations for an 70 to 80-year-old man is not that strange. However, when you pair it with him coughing up blood, a cold, we can start to really see some things take place. This idea of illness and death really take a root in our mind. So now we're going to move to conjecture, hearsay, and more so reading into things. So we do know for a fact that Takamura does try to get every single one of his matches to be fought in Japan. Now that could just be because Takamura doesn't want to travel. That could be for a ton of different reasons, but one that has been regularly brought up is that travel is very tough for elderly people, especially ones with illness. Now, that might seem a little bit strange, that Takamura wouldn't necessarily tell everybody else about the coach being ill and still letting him catch the mitts, but we also have to respect that if the coach is wanting to pursue forward, Takamura is going to follow the will of the coach, because that's what he has always done. He has followed the coach no matter what happens. It's why we've seen him win matches before, just like Ippo. He follows the coach's training and trusts it. And if the coach thinks that he's well enough to catch the mitts, Takamura may very well trust him on that. Now, one important thing to note with that is that while you are, while you're trading punches, it is a very, very difficult thing. But Takamura has been asking to get all of these matches placed here in Japan. The other thing that we see is Takamura wants to climb up the ranks quickly. And it could be because he doesn't want to cut weight anymore. He thinks that it's going to be tougher as he gets older. And again, it could just be because he wants to get all the belts caught before the coach, kind of passes into the ether, unfortunately. Now, again, we're moving more so into the conjecture portion of this, the reading into it after, Takamura's own feelings and thinking about what Yagi has said in the past with, it's stressful on your body. The drawings of Kamogawa have really left him to look more compact, smaller, slimmer. His eyes look sunken in. Now, this could be a change in drawing style for Morikawa, which has evolved well over the last 31 years. It's gone from something in one thing to a different thing, and it looks different, so it could just be a change in style, and we're reading too much into this. Another thing is the way that they're telling the story as to how Kamogawa is spending time with the people that he loves, because, again, he could be thinking that he is close to the doors. He's spending the time with people who mean a lot to him, who really have an important aspect in his life. So, do I think that Kamogawa is going to die before the end of the series? That's what we're really getting at here. And I have to say that after careful examination and thinking about it on the spot, if he does die, I will not be surprised. I hope he doesn't, but if he does, I will not be surprised, because it will give Ippo a reason to continue boxing. He has seen Kamogawa as the god of the ring, and if Kamogawa dies, I think that Ippo will come back to prove that his teachings weren't outdated, old, or dead, and they didn't die with him. In fact, I think that the way that Ippo is going to end is probably going to be with Ippo or Takamura, probably Ippo, taking over the Kamogawa gym as a boxer himself and having that world title belt hanging, and we're going to kind of get a jump skip to the future, but that's a whole nother story. So I hope he doesn't die, but I get the feeling that we're going to see Kamogawa pulled away from the ring almost permanently. He might not be able to help train the kids, but he will be able to watch them from afar. Let me know what you think of this theory down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Hajime no Ippo related content. And for everyone new and old, welcome and welcome back. It's your boy Lohili, and I will see you next video.